Hello, and welcome to the DoneJS Contributors Meeting. Today is Friday, June 8th, 2018. My name is Chasen Lahara, coming to you from Long Beach, California. We've got two of three faces right now. Let's get started with Sheriff. Good to see you, Sheriff.
Good to see you too, Chasen. I'm Sheriff from Algiers, Algeria. Hello, everyone.
With an amazing Mediterranean view from your place. Matthew, good to see you.
Good to see you. Hello, DoneJSers.
Hello, and then eventually Justin will join us. So today we're going to go through the results of our latest community survey, and then we'll go through some demos of what we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. Let me get started with the survey results. Let me share my screen. Sweet. All right, so we had a record number of people participate in this latest survey, which was really cool. Welcome everyone who is new. And this is how the rankings came out. So on top was making it possible to support IE 11. Second to that was the CanJS Getting Started video. And then tied for third, or tied for fourth, was improving compatibility with Webpack and making CanJS's core build less than 50 kilobytes. And then down the list, I'm calling out those top few because those are the ones that we're planning on tackling. So right now we're working on CanJS 5 and SteelJS 2. So I'd expect us to work on those after those are released. Maybe we can talk about that. And of note, the Webpack proposal and the core build proposal were tied for the same ranking. We're choosing to do the Webpack and not the core build one right now because the Webpack one is going to be more straightforward for us to do. And the core build could introduce more breaking changes, and we don't want to have that hold up CanJS 5's release. So we think that we'll actually be able to tackle these in this next couple months.
Did you talk about the ballot box stuffing?
I did not talk about the ballot box stuffing, so but we can get into that a little bit. We had people from a couple of different companies kind of round up their coworkers, I'm assuming, to vote in the survey. So that is what made the biggest difference from IE 11, the IE 11 proposal being down at the bottom at the last survey, and then coming up to the top for this one.
I would just like to applaud whoever did that. A for effort. I don't know how I feel. I mean, on one hand, I feel like, it's kind of cheating, but it's not cheating. And then I like the effort. I like the and that's really what makes me want to do it, is that someone cared enough to like round people up to make it happen. If only people cared enough to actually contribute the fixes to make IE 11 work, then we'd really be talking. But I still respect a lot the effort to get people to vote for it.
Yeah, and it's funny because we had talked privately about when there were only a few votes for IE 11, and we knew that really matter. If that matters to you, it really matters to you. And we had talked about like, oh, like should we try and make it some way so that you can put like all of your votes to one proposal instead of having to spread them out across all of them. That problem kind of worked itself out by those people encouraging their coworkers to all participate in the survey. So yeah, I think it's interesting. And those weren't just single issue voters. So that was good. Hopefully they'll participate in surveys in the future. And shout out to anyone who's looking to contribute. If your company to either sponsor the development of any of the proposals or contribute like engineering and developer time, chat with us. We want to talk to you. I think that's it for survey results. Anything else before we move on to demos? Nope. Cool. Justin, you want to get us started with demos?
Sure. So I'm going to just demo Bitballs and some changes I made there. If people are not familiar with Bitballs, I run a charity basketball tournament. And this is something that I kind of started over a weekend. And then as new hires come to Pitovi, I try to have them add features or make improvements. This has been upgraded now in I think at least the staging branch to CanJS 5, so people can look at the new code. And I just want to highlight some of my favorite things. The first thing that I wanted to actually show, what I did recently that just makes such a big difference, and we need to keep doing this places, is to this is tests running. Just this small little change, I think, is why I think CanJS has gotten so much better since 2.3 and now to 5, continuing in, especially in 4.0, and now it's continuing in 5.0, which is the fact that we log things to let people know, and we're getting better at logging things. So previously, if you ever used CanFixture, it would just kind of log like, oh, you got service players, and then just kind of say that it went to a function, but it would just kind of as a string function. But now this little subtle change can show, well, this was there was a request made to services players with this is its data, and the server responded with this. So here's the response body. I can see what the data was. And even better than that, I can go to the actual fixture function and see the actual fixture function that was, it looks like, used and created. Well, in this case, it wasn't created for a particular test. It was just the fixture function for players in general. I could put a debugger in there, right? Just like little subtle change to go from just logging that was like 10% helpful to logging now that I think really, I mean, is like 90% helpful. It's almost exactly what you would want.
Yeah, that's a world of difference. That's so cool.
Yeah. So little things like that are sprouting up. I mean, I think this is the one thing that we've really started to take serious since 4.0 is just getting our logging, getting it so functions are named really nice. It makes a world of difference. The next thing I wanted to show was, this is my development version, but it allows you to mark up a basketball game of when it is, there's loads of YouTube video, and I'll mute it. And you can kind of see, this red bar moves as the time is changing. I can click on a game, or I click on a stat, and it takes me to where that person did something. These stats aren't accurate. I just was randomly adding stats. The score moves, things like that. And there was a nice big change in terms of, this is more like 4.0, a real full 4.0 upgrade. Allowed me to simplify and improve the code quite a bit. So I just want to show what the old code looked like real quick, and just quickly highlight the new code. So this is before my recent upgrade. And the trickiest part, the worst component of this is that is the game details component that we were just looking at, that has the YouTube player. Because whenever you have something that is stateful outside of the DOM, CanJS and pretty much every single other framework gets a little weird. And the way that I used to do this, because we needed to get the time from YouTube, and then also have the user be able to change the time, and then YouTube doesn't give you an event when the time changes, so you have to poll to get the time. And I had to do everything in this, in the events object. I would kind of listen to when YouTube's inserted, and then once it was inserted, I would have this polling, the set timeout that would keep polling the YouTube player for the time, and then set the time on the view model in kind of in multiple places, and then also call this update position. function that was also on the event object that would move that little red line where it should be, the little red line that's moving as this red line as you play. Now the new value behavior of define map has allowed me to declaratively derive the YouTube player time and derive the position of that line correctly. So it's not imperative code, it's derived all in one place. So in short, the real way I did this is I can, when the YouTube player is ready, I publish an event, I can listen to that event, and then I can set up polling. Oh, this is the duration, sorry. Let me find the player time. Essentially what I do is I set up, when you try to get the YouTube player time value when that's red, it's essentially setting up polling. This time update is going to keep being called, and it's just going to keep trying to read from the YouTube player its get time, and then call resolve again every 50 milliseconds or 30 milliseconds if, oh, this check time is supposed to be here. Or 300 milliseconds if you are paused. Right, so I can get the player time, I get the duration from reading YouTube as well. I can derive those from the YouTube player, and then from the element on the actual from the element from the YouTube player time and YouTube player duration, I can derive the left, top, and height of that little cursor that's moving across the page. And then finally in stash, I can just have stash write that out and that element will move. So this was always really hard and tricky to get in one place before, but now I can just set it up. Oh, you're going to listen to it and the time changes, the duration changes, or if the user actually changes the size of their page, then you're going to recalculate and provide your left, top, and height. And this is, the window resize is a little tricky to get in there and test, but all of the other things I can create tests for that just emit player time, player duration changes, and then test that the cursor position is giving me the right results. So that's it for me.
Sweet. Thanks, Justin. Matthew, do you have anything you want to demo?
I do. Yes, I do. So I like that Justin showed that debugging thing. Just a reminder, oh no, that I wrote an article a while back called Improved Error Handling in DoneJS. So it talks a little bit about some things that Justin was talking about, how CanJS 4.0 is a lot about the debugging experience and how that also has influenced what we've done in DoneJS. So if you haven't read that article, check that out. I dropped a note into the Getter and into the forums, so you can check that out. That's not what I wanted to show off. I did want to show off an error message that is improved recently. So I think I did this last week. It's in Steel. I don't know, whatever the latest Steel version is. Let's see what the latest version is. Steel is 111.8. So if you have 111.8, you definitely have this. If you don't, you probably I would recommend getting it for sure. So yeah, so sometimes in production you might have seen this error message. Hopefully not. This happens because something bad happened. We load this page. Okay, so this is using DoneSSR, so this is server-side rendering. You might see this in the browser as well if you have this problem. So this error is not really telling you what you want to know. But if you've ever seen cannot read property / map of undefined, there was a bug basically that was blocking a better error message. So what's actually happening here is that there's a 404. We're not able to fetch a module. And because of that, Steel has a built-in mechanism to retry fetches. It knows about certain fallback URLs that it can use to fetch, and it will try to fetch those as well. So that's what's happening here. But unfortunately, previously that didn't work in production. And the reason why is you shouldn't really need to ever do a retry in production because everything's bundled into these different bundles. We don't usually need to fetch any external modules. But if you have a problem in your build or something, then it's possible that you could get a 404 and you'd be hit with this bad message. So I fixed that. I fixed it so that in production, it actually will do the retries now. So that's good. And then assuming, you know, like I said, in production, you usually shouldn't need the retries. So what you'll get then is you'll get an error message like this. So yay, it works. So yeah, you get the node error message when it tried to open this file. Bitball is public, can key.js doesn't exist. It tells you which module it was that could be fetched. Sometimes module names are a little bit better to look at, and it gives an a link to some documentation about 404s and why they might happen, and what you can do to fix it. So yeah, that's much nicer. I mean, I ran into this doing some stuff myself, and I was like, what does this mean? I was like, it was one of those things where I knew I'd seen it before, and I'd helped other people fix it before, but I didn't really know what it meant. And then I remember that I'd actually fixed this in master. This is using Steel 2. I'd fixed this in Steel 1, and I just kind of ported the change over. Now I got this, and I just, my heart was filled with happiness that it told me exactly what module failed, and then I could then go and investigate what the problem was. So yay, error messages continue to be something that we try to improve in DoneJS throughout. And again, if you haven't read this article from a couple months back, do definitely check that out. Blog.patobi.com will give you all the articles, and it's one of the more recent ones. So that's all for me.
Sweet. Thanks, Matthew. I'm going to continue the error handling theme and talk a little bit about, let me share my screen. I don't have a lot to demo from these last 2 weeks, but I do want to show off something that Kevin posted. He's been working a lot on improving the error messages or the warnings for scope walking. So if you've seen warnings like these in your console, Kevin has been working on like making them more clear, making the suggestions better, and that sort of thing. So he wrote up a post. If you go to the forums and then look for the unable to find key warnings in CanJS 4, it's also posted in the forum post for this stream. You can read this post that he wrote about some of those recent improvements, and also what those warnings actually mean and how you can fix them in your application. And then we put a call out if some of the descriptions don't make sense, or if you see a different warning or have some other issue. We want to hear about it, so you can just reply on the forum or open up an issue in CanStash. And I think that's it. Hey, Julian. Good to see you. Hey. Julian or Sheriff, do you guys have anything that you wanted to demo?
Not for me, no.
I have nothing to demo, but I can talk about what I did and what I have and what I would like to do in the next hours.
Yeah, so for sure.
I had some pull requests for CAN Ajax, so check that out if you want to send an authorization request through your headers using CAN Ajax. You can do that right now, or you can do it with the next release of CAN Ajax. So that's the one part. The other part, I added some error handling messages for DoneSSR. If you're using DoneSSR and you have no routes defined, you get an error message now where it's called that you should define an route. Otherwise, the app is not working correctly, and you got a 4 and 4 on your first.
Why does the app not work?
Yeah, it's working, but you get in a network tab, the app is rendering, right? But in your network tab, the first request to the DoneSSR app is getting in 4 and 4.
Is that something that we're doing, like in DoneSSR, like we check if it matches one of the routes, and if it doesn't, we...
Yeah.
I wonder if it should just be like if there are no routes, because to me, in some ways, you could. I don't know if this is gonna be a common need, but like someone could just have like foo.com and then just question mark query string parameters and never have a actually like slashes and folders, and that would be valid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you are using DoneSSR, is checking the view model is connected to the DoneSSR to the route data property. So if you don't have to find a route, the view model state doesn't have that information. So DoneSSR doesn't find the correct route to the page.
Yeah, I guess what I'm just wondering, is there a way to support it so that people could still, you know, work in that scenario where they don't actually have any foldery type routes? They could send a signal like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I don't know.
I don't think you have to have any folder type routes. You just
or
have
any
to,
routes, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I just mean like if someone had AB, if someone just wanted AB, you know, foo.com, and then they just wanted ABC Z to just come, everything here past the question mark should just be on a view model. That's I mean, that might be a possible use case, because especially because we allow people to also set like base, whatever it's called, like their, was it base path or something? So they could have like, this is where their app is mounted, but they really don't even want folders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so never mind. Yeah, you get an error message right now. If you
no,
don't,
it's a good warning. No, it's like a good. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a warning there. I just think
it's a warning. It's not an error message. It's a warning.
Yeah.
That says that you should have to find a route, and it's pointed to the DoneSSR website or DoneJS.com website, where the routes are explained. Yes. So yeah, that's my error or a warning message today. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think we should fix DoneSSR to not produce, or to not throw a 404. I think, I don't know. That's an interesting circumstance. That's just, I don't know. I have to think about that more.
DoneSSR doesn't do this. This is done auto render.
Or done auto render. I mean.
Which, if it doesn't produce a 404, then you would never produce 404s.
Yeah, I know. That's I agree. I don't know what the,
maybe some type of opt-in. I have no routes.
An opt-in where it's like no route true or something, or maybe you just have to give it like route. You have to at least do that, because that would turn it off. Should turn off the warning, and then that handles the base. You know, where you've got nothing, and then you can even provide, you know, default.
Well, if we did that thing that you were suggesting where you could call, what if you just called route.start that says, hey, I'm using the router, you know what I mean?
Yeah, someone's at least aware of the router. Yeah, I mean, they could get the order wrong, but yeah, that's an idea. I think this would probably be enough too as well.
Okay.
Hey, fine. You want this? Just if you want to support something like this, it's mounted with no folders.
Yeah, I do think that CanRoute should have some type of way to do 404s. It's always been weird. It's kind of weird because in some ways there is no invalid route in the client-side app, but there are invalid routes. So like I've had to implement 404s before in apps. It'd be nice if CanRoute had some way of doing that. I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, people have asked for that. Now there is now in route, there is like a route.rule, which you can check, and that will give you the matched routing rule, which I think might give you undefined or null if you didn't have one. So, and then there's also ways of listening to route.rule itself is an observable. So if you wanted to create a compute or something that you could find whenever route rule is changed to something undefined, it's observable. But it's not, yeah, it's not built in. Like there's not a nice API for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and the last thing I want to edit is, yeah, I will release a new Steel Mocha version 2.0. So we have now then Steel is Mocha 5, I think, and you can use it maybe today or tomorrow.
Awesome. Julian, I noticed that you, in one of the comments, you asked if you should release Can Ajax as a 2.0 release.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
That's because we now parse the reject body. If there's a body message on a reject request, the Can Ajax will pass that, and so you can maybe, if for example, if you have a login and authorization failed, you can respond with a unauthorization header response and put some JSON data in the body. So Can Ajax will pass that body, and you can use that in your stash template to inform the user that the password or the username is incorrect.
Now is a really good time to release that as a major release because that'll go with CanJS 5.
Okay. Yo, so I'm finished.
Awesome.
Sweet, thanks. Do we have any other topics before we sign off? Anyone? No? All right, cool. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a regular contributors meeting with more demos and topics. And see you guys then. Bye.
See ya.